Welcome back to Master of the Modes Masterclass. Today we're talking about Phrygian. Okay. What is Phrygian? Does anybody know out there what Phrygian is? The Phrygian mode is the third mode of the major scale. So let's start from scratch. If you're familiar with this, maybe skip ahead a little bit. But for those of you who are new to modes, we're going to take the C major scale as the foundation. We have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. What we're going to do is we're going to move up to the third note in that scale. C, D, E. Okay, we're going to replay that scale from E. We're going to go from E to E using all the notes of the C major scale. All right, vastly different sounding than the C major scale, though they are the same notes. There's C major, happy and bright. And then there's E Phrygian, a little less happy and bright. Why do they sound different if it's the same ingredients? Well, the answer to that is very simple. The intervallic distance between all of the notes has now shifted. A different pattern that elicits a different sound. Okay? All right, so now that we know where E Phrygian comes from, let's analyze E Phrygian and compare it to, say, its parallel E major. When I think about modes and scales and how they interconnect, I like to think of them in terms of parallels. So for example, C major and C minor are parallel, E major and E minor are parallel, and you could also look at E Phrygian and E major as being parallel. And the reason I like to look at the major scales as the foundation is because that's the scale that all of Western harmonic theory is based on. So you have to start there. So the E major scale, I'll put the notes up on screen for you, goes like this. All right, I like to compare the E major scale to E Phrygian to help you understand and also maybe even visualize the difference, okay? This doesn't have to be confusing. If you know your major scales by heart, then you're more than halfway there. All you're going to do to create E Phrygian from E major is you're going to just flat all of the sharps. So E major has an F sharp, G sharp, C sharp, and D sharp. Bring all those sharps down by a half step and make them naturals. And you got yourself E Phrygian. So let's do it again. Here's E major. Here's E Phrygian. Very simple, all right? Now, music can be written in major and minor keys, mostly, right, for this current time of existence, but you can write songs or parts of songs in the Phrygian mode. I'm going to be going over some of those songs in a minute, but before we do that, let's take a look at the chord structure of the Phrygian mode. What is it about the Phrygian mode that makes it different from the minor or the major, right? If we compare the Phrygian mode to E minor has an F sharp as its second note, okay? But E Phrygian has an F natural as its second note. That would be called a minor second or a flat 2. And the flat 2 is that specific interval that makes the Phrygian mode what it is. It gives it its signature sound. The difference between E minor and E Phrygian is literally one note. And that one note makes all the difference in the world. That's the thing about music. You look at the ingredients of things and go, there's a lot of commonalities here. Why should it be that different? Well, one note can change everything. And that's something to remember when you're learning music theory and analyzing things. So in the key of E Phrygian, the signature chords would be the 1 chord E minor to the 2 chord F major. can get a very Arabian, Egyptian, Middle Eastern vibe from this mode. Very mysterious, very erotic. And it's just flavorful would be the word. If I could pick one mode that would be like sounding like the taste of food you've never had before, the Phrygian mode. And there's an offshoot of the Phrygian mode called the Phrygian dominant mode, which we'll be going through in a later episode. But I'm touching on the modes of the major scale specifically first. So anyway, back to the show here. We got the E minor to the F major. It's a 1 minor in the E minor, but then up a half step to the flat 2 for the F. And again, that is the signature chord progression for the Phrygian mode. Now, let's get into some songs that use this mode so that you can take what I've given you here and go listen to these songs if you're a metalhead. And just kind of listen for that change, right? That flat 2, right? You want to hear that flat 2 in the music. There's a few songs that do this. All right, guys, I want to analyze this from the perspective of heavy metal, as it's one of my favorite genres of all time. There's a band called Megadeth. I'm sure you've heard of them. And they have a song called Symphony of Destruction. It's probably up in their top 10 most popular songs of all time. And the opening riff to this song goes like this. All right, now that chord progression right there is literally the same chord progression I just discussed on the piano. It's an E, or I'm sorry, it's an F, down a half step to an E, down again, back up to the F, and then we're going up to the minor third in G. So we're covering, let me just play this on piano and then also on guitar, we're covering the 1, 2, and 3 of the E Phrygian mode. All right, and you can hear that again on guitar here. All right, that is your first example. The second example is a song by Iron Maiden off of their, I believe it was their debut, 1980. It's called Remember Tomorrow. What you get there is, again, just more E Phrygian. We're on the 1 chord E, up a half step to that F, which is the flat 2. That is your signature Phrygian sound. All right. One more example for you. The song Wherever I May Roam by Metallica. So we're covering all the greats here. Metallica, Megadeth, Iron Maiden. That song goes something like this. So that's Wherever I May Roam by Metallica, again in E Phrygian. Seems to be the color choice for the Phrygian mode off of E. We have the 1 and then the flat 2. So, and that is the basis for that riff, the flat 2. All right. The sound of the Phrygian mode is very dark, mysterious, sometimes downright evil, right? If played in the right context. Makes for great solos, by the way.